Hi everyone, it's lovely to see so many people here for today's presentation. I'm happy to introduce our two speakers today. So we have Fatima Malik, who is an optometrist from the University of Manchester. And Fatima is involved in teaching across all levels of the optometry course programs at the University of Manchester. She's won many awards for her excellent practice, including accolades for assessment and feedback, inclusive education, and Teacher of the Year from Manchester University. We also have Louise Taylor, who is a Professor of Education and Student Experience at Oxford Brookes University. And again, along with many, many accolades, Louise is a National Teaching Fellow and has won a Collaborative Award for Teaching Excellence from Advanced HE. Louise is also a founding member of the T Fund Committee, who are kind of hosting this particular presentation. And Louise's research applies psychological theory to understand what makes successful learning and teaching, both in the context of the marketisation of higher education and ethnicity degree awarding gaps. So without further ado, I'll pass things over to Fatima and Louise, who will be talking to us today about inclusive teaching during Ramadan.
Thank you so much, Alex. Hi everyone. Really great to see so many people here. As I say, my name's Alex has introduced. I'm Louise Taylor, a Professor of Education and Student Experience at Oxford Brookes University. And I'm really delighted to be sharing this guide that we actually created last year, ready for Ramadan. And I just want to do a quick thanks to all the collaborators who have worked with us on the guide, including a couple of my own students, as well as a team of people, including Fatima, who's going to talk to us about it with me today, who have made this possible. So thank you to everyone. And also a quick nod to the T Fund network, which without the T Fund network would have been really difficult to get this really diverse group of educators together to work on this guide. So if you're interested in, you're not already a member of T Fund, please join up. It's a network of academics on teaching focused pathways, really wanting to support pedagogic practice and enhance student experience. So the guide that we're going to be sharing today is accessible via the National Teaching Repository. I'll just put a link in the chat as well to it, so you can access it. I don't know if that link's going to work. Anyway, you can help scan the QR code. You can just Google it and you'll find it via the National Teaching Repository. Right, so just before we start properly, I just wanted to gauge the kind of level of expertise that we have here. Maybe you could just have your mouse over the react button just to kind of give us a thumbs up or a wave if you're to tell us which one of these animal pictures or duck pictures might apply to you. So you might be kind of just starting out in this area, not really maybe you weren't really aware that Ramadan was coming up. Maybe you're still a bit in an eggshell, a bit in the dark. Maybe you're kind of aware, you're a little kind of duckling treading water. You kind of know Ramadan's about to come up, but you're not really sure, what to do about it. Maybe you're a bit more of an expert. The landing, okay, thanks, Mamdu. Or maybe you're the leader and others are following you. So. All right, let's now I've explained them. Right, let's do. So I've got all my. I don't know if there's a delay here for me, but anyway, I think we've got a range of expertise in the room. Some of you will be kind of here because you want to know a bit more about it. Others might be leading, or have leadership roles and be able to promote what we're talking about within your teams, etc. Okay, I want to hand over to Fatima now. So thank you so much, Fatima, who's delivering this talk with me. Would you like to tell us a bit about what Ramadan is?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining us, everyone. All of this information, for references in the guide as well. But just to give you a bit of an overview of what is Ramadan. So it is a sacred month in the Islamic calendar where Muslims normally would fast. It is also the month in which Qur'an was actually first revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in terms of the actual fast, is from dawn till sunset. So that can then vary depending on the time of year that Ramadan falls in. at the moment, Ramadan is falling in like a springtime, heading towards winter, so the fasts are fairly shorter than they were a few years ago when Ramadan was falling in the summer. So it can be up to 16 hours that Muslims would be fasting during the daylight hours. It is a sacred time. It is a time for spiritual growth, and Muslims look forward to Ramadan and prepare for it in terms of getting ready to make the most of it as well. And the main aim of Ramadan has been to actually make us a more mindful of God and mindful of our duty to help those in need. The biggest purpose is to make us be conscious of God and of our actions. Ultimately, all other acts of worship in the that we have could sometimes be done with a mixed intention. You might feel like you're maybe going to be seen as pious or righteous or better, or your intentions might get mixed. Whereas fasting is something that only you and God knows that you're actually fasting. You didn't just go and hide in a corner and drink a bit of water or something. So it kind of allows you to get really, really conscious of your actions. And after Ramadan, then we do have a festival of Eid, where it's a celebration to mark the end of Ramadan. Could we have the next slide, please? And I think most importantly, it's important to just kind of think of how fasting was first kind of mentioned in the Qur'an. So I'm going to just recite the verse from the Qur'an. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. And this translates to, O believers, fasting is prescribed for you as it was for those before you, i.e. the followers of previous prophets. So perhaps you may become mindful of God, or Allah, which is the Arabic word for God. And this kind of gives a nod to the fact that this is fasting is not unique to Islam. It is a religious and spiritual practice that is found in many religions. However, it is one of the main pillars of Islam and one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So it's one of the main tenets of the faith, and it tends to be much longer than maybe some of the other religious. Obviously, we have Lent in Christianity. There are fasting days prescribed for various religions. So this verse kind of gives a nod to that as well. Next slide, please. So when is Ramadan? Like I kind of alluded to earlier, Ramadan can shift. And this is because the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar, a little bit like maybe you might be aware of other like Chinese new calendar and things like that. So because it's a lunar calendar, the months are 29 or 30 days long. And therefore it shifts every year against the Gregorian calendar, which we're all used to. So Ramadan ends up falling 10 days early each year. So this year is predicted to fall around 18th or 19th of February. Sorry, that's a typo, I think. And then next year, based on that, it will likely fall around maybe 8th or 9th of Feb, and so on and so forth. So it's creeping towards the start of the Gregorian calendar slowly. And then Eid is predicted to be around 19th or 20th of March this year. So yeah, as it mentions, it moves approximately 10 days earlier each year. And then this can be why sometimes students might find it tougher in some seasons than others when they're doing Ramadan. I'll pass you back over to Louise.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so we know that Muslim students comprise the largest religious group in higher education, second to Christianity. So 11% of Muslim students, 11% of students in higher education in the UK are Muslim, and I think it's around 30% are Christian as a comparison. So Muslim students are the second largest group after Christian students. But what we know from previous research is that there are substantial awarding gaps in terms of the number of students who will be awarded a first class or an upper second class degree if they are Muslim versus if they have no religion. So only 61% of Muslim students will be awarded a good degree, that compares with 77% if the students are not religious. Now, interestingly, it's also the case that other students who declare that they are religious, they're also awarding gaps for those students. So for Christians, Hindus, etc. But the biggest gap is for Muslim students. And there's lots of reasons why their general experience on campus is less satisfactory than for other students. So, for example, there's a lot of quite a high drinking culture on lots of campuses, and lots of student societies might revolve around drinking, whereas Muslims generally don't drink. And so they experience kind of social exclusion. And also a few years ago, you may have heard of the prevent strategy, which just served to kind of increase the way in which these students were often viewed as suspicious. And so there's lots of work we need to do to support Muslim students in particular to have a better experience on campus and also to achieve their potential. Oh, I'm just going to mute. And there was a piece of research done with Muslim doctoral students in the UK. And here's some examples of how students feel who are in higher education. So one student said, "I really have to be careful how I speak or what I do, limiting my authentic self in case it reflects negatively for hiring committees. It's so tiring." So this was it's a PhD students, I should say, who were talking about their experiences of higher education. Another student said, "We're always put in positions that we have to choose between our religion and our identity and ultimately succeeding in higher education." So we know that students have a far less positive experience if they're Muslim on campus compared to other students. As part of some of the work we did as well, actually no, I'm not gonna mention that just yet. Fatima, do you want to talk about the impact of Ramadan now?
Yeah, of course. So I think the main thing to note here is that, like I mentioned, Ramadan is a time of kind of considered a sacred spiritual month. So the main thing to be aware of is that students' priorities might shift more towards their personal worship as well as spending time with family and community during Ramadan. They're probably going to be more inclined to wanting to make sure they're praying on time, the 5 daily prayers which happen throughout the day. They're more likely to be adherent to that, as well as being possibly absent for Eid if it doesn't happen to fall on a weekend, which it isn't predicted to be this year. So you see they're going to be Thursday or Friday. And I think in terms of the impact on learning, potentially also could fluctuate. This can depend on the day and the and where we are during Ramadan. Like the last 10 days are considered the most sacred and holy, so they are more likely to be staying up late to do worship at nighttime. There are congregational prayers which are voluntary, but they would be more inclined to attend those during Ramadan in general, but specifically maybe in the last 10 days. So that can then have an impact on their sleep. And also the fact that they will be maybe getting up for having a meal before dawn to set them up for the fast ahead can mean that the sleep can be quite disturbed. As well. So even though there are mixed evidence when we look at literature in terms of effects of fasting, and a lot of that can sometimes depend on the country that and the context. So if it's a Muslim country, the day and the working day would be revolving around the fast, and the impact was less significant compared to where Muslims might not be in the majority and the day at the university isn't set up around that. However, we do have much more consistent evidence about the negative effects of sleep disruption on learning. So I think a lot of the time you may think, rightly so, that, oh, maybe my students are going to be hungrier and thirstier and may not be able to concentrate. But potentially even more than that could be maybe the sleep disruption that comes sometimes as part and parcel because of their priorities shifting towards worship and time at night, that might be result in disturbed sleep. Pass it back over to Louise.
Okay, yeah, so we have both a legal and arguably a moral duty to address the issues of inequitable experiences and degree outcomes for Muslim students. So we have a legal obligation, first of all, under the Equality Act, whereby it's unlawful for any education provider to discriminate between pupils on the grounds of disability, and obviously here religion, belief and race may come into it here as well. Discrimination against these protected characteristics is considered unlawful. And things like, I know that, for example, at my institution, the dissertation deadline is very near Eid. So any Muslim student doing a dissertation, the last 4 weeks at which they're going to be working on their dissertation is going to be Ramadan. And this, immediately puts them at a disadvantage compared to students who are not obviously going through Ramadan. So it could be considered indirect discrimination if we have a dissertation deadline around Eid and if we don't take into account Ramadan. I thought at the risk of trying to play a video on a video call, I don't know if this is going to work, but Brooks last year, Oxford Brooks, created a series of videos about Ramadan, and I just thought I'd show you 1 or 2 minutes from, I'm just going to mute someone, that was done with a student, giving the student perspective on what observing Ramadan was like for him. So I'm going to see if let's. Okay, I think I need to change the screen that I'm sharing him on. Yeah, I've ticked the share sound, so I hope the sound works. Let me know if it doesn't work.
Hi, Raheem.
Louise, I can't see your screen, or I can't see anything.
Sure, Shamsa. I've lived out at uni for 3 years, so I was obviously away from my family, away from my...
Sorry, Carolyn, say that again. You can't see the screen.
We haven't seen the screen for a while, the slides. It's been nice listening to you. We can't see the screen.
I can see and hear it. I think other people in the chat are saying they can.
Oh, can they? Oh,
okay. Something strange about you, Carolyn. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's not unusual.
Okay.
I'll have a look at my settings.
All right, thank you. Okay, given that it's working for most, we'll carry on.
My usual friends back in my hometown. At first, obviously, it was a little bit difficult because basics, like I'm not having food ready for me. I have to now organise my own sehri, my own iftar. So I'm now feeding myself, which I've never really done before in my life. So first time it was a bit of a shock to be waking up in dead middle of the night. Sometimes I just stay up because I didn't know if I was going to wake up. And, having cereal instead of toast, eggs, all the usual at home. In a way, it was more spiritually enlightening in the fact that I had myself. Like I wasn't sort of praying together with my family, and especially when I joined, it was COVID time, so we was all praying separately. So I felt like I had a more stronger connection to month of Ramadan because I had an empty mind, no distractions, and it was just me and God. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I had for the first time in a long time, I had a really, spiritually strong Ramadan, and I felt coming out of it, I had made progress in my faith. I felt stronger in my faith, and I felt like I could build on that, and I have in the following years.
What is one thing maybe you really find important in Ramadan?
What I find important is just timings. Like it's easy for the day to slip away from you. You wake up, food, water, I need to get as much down. Then next thing, uni, 9 a.m. I've got a break. What do I do in my break? I can't eat. You know what I mean? So it's a bit awkward because your friends are like, oh, can we eat? Can we drink water? I was like, yes, fine. Like, don't feel sorry for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is my choice. And if I didn't want to fast, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't fast, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
If I wasn't able to medically, I wouldn't do it because we're not encouraged to do it. So I think that once just finding that initial routine was a little bit difficult. I mean, I found that in like even during the day when there wasn't a prayer time, I'd just come sit in the prayer room during my breaks, and maybe like instead of eating food, I'd read the Qur'an or I'd listen to a podcast about Islam. It's just, I think I had more time for my religion because I wasn't doing mundane tasks like eating and drinking all day long, which I'm renowned for doing, eating all day long. So yeah, what would you think your experience was as a staff member?
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. But obviously, if you just if you want to watch more, you can Google "observing Ramadan as a student" and you should find the videos on YouTube. Okay, let me just go back to sharing the slides now. Okay, hopefully you can see the slides now. Okay, so I really did. Before I kind of start explaining the project that we embarked on, really want to thank my student, without which this wouldn't have happened at all. And it was one of my social work students who, a couple of years ago, was kind of really brave enough to say to me and admit to me that, you know, her and her another Muslim student were finding it difficult to concentrate because it was Ramadan and because they were fasting. And really, through my own ignorance, I just wasn't really aware that Ramadan was happening, let alone the potential impact on them. And so together we then kind of started this project to find out more. I wanted to find out what other educators are doing or not, and are other educators like me kind of just unaware this is happening, and what can we do to raise awareness and find out what we can do practically to support students who are in our classes. So that was when I then kind of put the call out to the TFUN network and created a national network of educators with interest or lived experience of Ramadan, and we put together the project team and surveyed some educators across the country to find out about awareness and also what are they doing or not to support students during Ramadan to create the guide. So we managed to get responses from almost 300 educators. They were mostly female, mostly at the senior lecturer level. So most of them were, you know, in the classrooms teaching as part of their day job, mostly from social sciences and health and social care. And the proportion who had no religion or were Christian or Muslim largely mirrors that of the student population in higher education. So we felt like we had that's the sample that we were able to reach. And they filled in our survey. What we were most interested in was their awareness levels. Did they know when Ramadan was the previous year? Did they take that into account? Did they understand what that involved? And did they make any changes to their teaching and learning practice or not, if they were aware that it was Ramadan? So I'm going to do a quick quiz here for you. Maybe you can put your, I don't know, maybe do a thumbs up as I call out the number to make your guess. So this is a very high-tech presentation. What percent of educators did not know approximately when Ramadan was the previous year? So a thumbs up or something on the react button if you think 10% did not know. Okay, no one yet. 25%. No one yet. 33%. Okay, right, we're getting a few responses here. Okay, so around, we've got a few of you guessing a third didn't know. 50%. Okay, I think more thumbs up here. Okay. Yeah, still some thumbs up. What about 75%? Oh, lots of thumbs up there too. Okay, well, it wasn't that bad. According to the educators who, well, obviously it's a self-report, but apparently around a quarter did not know when Ramadan was the previous year. So still, one in four lecturers, senior lecturers who are in the classroom, you know, at the chalk face, didn't know when Ramadan was. Okay. Next question. What percentage of educators did not know if they had any Muslim students in their class? Okay, hands on the react button again. 10%. Okay, a few of you are saying that. 25%. Okay, a few more thumbs up for 25%. 33%. Not quite as popular, that one. 40%. 66. Oh, somewhere 66%. Again, it was similar to last time. So 25%, again, 1 in 4%, so 1 in 4 of the educators we surveyed did not know if they had any Muslim students in their class. I'm not going to do the poll for next, I'll just tell you. But so of the 75% who did know they had Muslim students in their class, what percent of those actually knew whether those students were fasting? Well, less than half. So only 40% knew whether those students were fasting or not. And by implication, therefore, could potentially take this into account in their teaching or not. So when we did the staff survey, we also asked whether they had made any changes to their teaching or not, whether they thought that any change was needed. The key finding here was that of those who thought changes were needed or had already made some changes, around half of them had made changes. And it was those half who we wanted to know, well, okay, what was it you changed? And could we potentially look at this as best practice or not? So a few said they wanted to change but felt unable to, felt that there were too many kind of restrictions or limitations and didn't feel they had the sort of autonomy or power to change things. And some of them didn't think that change was needed. So, Fatima, do you want to hand over to you for the myth busting?
Yeah. So some of the things that came up in the survey, we used those to help inform things like that might potentially be myths as well, to kind of put everyone at ease about some things in terms of some people were mentioning in there about some of the changes they make is around telling everyone else not to eat or drink in class out of respect for their fasting peers. And you know, on the team we did have people on the project team that have lived experience, and those responses we thought, you know, you don't have to do that. Muslims as students will not hold it against you. You don't need to avoid eating or drinking in front of your fasting students, nor do you need to actively tell other students not to drink and eat in front of them, because it's not necessary. Muslims, when they're fasting, they're aware other people aren't fasting. They won't take offense to it. I mean, it's very kind gesture, but we found that it would probably be better to just have a conversation with your Muslim students and see what they prefer. But most of them would probably say, go ahead, don't worry about me. And then another myth that we came across was educators thinking that students will, you know, I've not made any changes because I guess students will come and ask me if they have a problem, or they'll request an adjustment if they need to. And I think one of the myths that we busted there was that students might not actually be aware that they can ask for changes, or they might not feel able to speak up just because cultural differences as well, or thinking, oh, I better just do what's needed. I don't want to make things tricky. But many institutions have policies. I think it's been mentioned in the chat already around reasonable adjustments and religious observances. And as staff, we might be aware of them, but students might not always know that they exist or that they can use those things for Ramadan as well. So that was a few of the myths that we tried to bust in the guide.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was just trying to catch up with some of the chat questions and comments, but so what can we do? This should say 1 to 6. I don't know why PowerPoint has changed it to 111, but there's 6. Basically, in the guide, we came up with 6 key things that and these things were were mentioned in the survey, and then we had a panel of Muslims who reviewed these suggestions and then made comments about whether they thought they were appropriate or not. So, for example, the myth about, we should tell students not to eat or drink in the class at break time. Actually, what we feel is more important is that you have a conversation with your Muslim students about what might be appropriate for them or not. So so we had these all these things have been kind of reviewed by our expert Muslim panel, and that included people like Fatima, who have got lived experience and academic experience, as well as our multi-faith chaplains as well, and the imam. So the first thing is simply to acknowledge, I'll just say what these are, and then Fatima, you're going to kind of describe them a little bit further. Acknowledge Ramadan. That can go a long way to just acknowledging that it's happening. They're really important. Really important to avoid assumptions and just ask your Muslim students, have that conversation. Think about adjusting assessment timings. We wouldn't dream of putting an assessment deadline at Christmas on Christmas Day in this country, which is, a Christian tradition. Think about how you offer learning opportunities for Muslim students who might not be able to come to campus, so offer more maybe asynchronous learning opportunity. Raising awareness and celebrating it. When it's Christmas time, the university will think nothing of putting up Christmas trees and banners. Is that something that we could think about for Ramadan? And about a more kind of holistic one about thinking about sustainable change at a more institutional level. So that's just a summary, and Fatima's now going to just explain these 6 things.
So yeah, one of the main things was then even just acknowledging Ramadan and letting your students know that you're aware that they might be fasting can go a long way to make them feel seen and kind of that they belong, and then that will give them the confidence to ask for any support should they need it. And it can be done among staff, maybe mentioning it at your staff meetings, that just so you're all aware, Ramadan is coming up in case your staff team isn't aware. And in the guide, we have shared like a little template that you can use either to send out an email, feel free to edit it, which just lets students know we're aware Ramadan is coming up. Some of you may be fasting, and we know that this might impact on your learning. Let us know if you need any support. So kind of like putting it out there, which can be helpful, and opening that door for conversation for them. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I'll just emphasize, in the guide we've got a template you can literally copy and paste and then insert the relevant kind of details to your institution. And last year I had feedback from educators who have used it, and it's just and in my experience it's just opened the door for Muslim students to then feel that they can approach you on this topic, whereas they may not previously have known, as Fatima already said, that they might not have known they could request adjustments, or that this can be taken into account, or it just enables them to feel seen.
Yeah, and you can do it as an announcement on your virtual learning environment, or like send it out as an email, whatever, easier.
Yeah.
And in the guide, we also have some resources, which can kind of fall part of another point later. So these resources were created in collaboration with Exceedu, who provide like training around how to incorporate Muslim stakeholders in your teams or as students or staff as well. And what we did with them, what I did with them was to create like a simple Ramadan Mubarak banner that you can use. So I've got an example of how I got it set up in the building where I work. It's a patient-facing clinic as well as students around. So it kind of just raises awareness. And this would be the area that would be decorated for Christmas or Easter. And what was really nice as well, that it kind of gave confidence to other staff members who had been there from before and were following different faiths to also celebrate their religious festival. So and that that Ramadan Mubarak banner is free to download through the link on the QR code. The other thing we created was a poster, and this has now actually been translated into Welsh. If anyone needs it, I can provide a copy. So you can put this up and this little poster up, and that will just answer a few like frequently asked questions, so that you can also make your other students aware that are not Muslim, or they might have questions like, oh, what, you can't drink water all day, you can't even eat anything for a whole month. And it's like, no, just during the daylight hours. And it can answer some of those little questions where it'll also inform your all of your students to be more aware citizens of the world as well. And it kind of just goes through what Ramadan means, basically what we've described in a little poster. And like I said, it has been translated into Welsh recently, so that's available as well. And so feel free, to think of any places in your communal areas where you can display this, and feel free to download and share away. The other kind of thing that we found was to avoid making assumptions. So sometimes with good intentions, maybe educators were doing things that might not always work or might not be the best thing, and they're making all this effort for maybe not much impact. And what we found is a lot of individual differences in what the students might prefer when they're fasting. And this can vary depending on if they live at home, or if they're a commuter student, or if they're international students, and they might have different needs. So rather than you making an effort to do something that might actually not make much of a difference, it might be good to actually just ask what they would prefer. And also just to be mindful in terms of the demands of Ramadan can sometimes vary. A few years ago, Ramadan fell during the Easter break, so probably didn't impact students as much, whereas now it's falling in semester time. In a few years' time, it's probably going to start falling in the January exam period. So some of those demands might change from year to year. I know someone mentioned in the chat, how can you find out when like Eid is or when Ramadan is? You can Google like Ramadan 2025 and it'll tell you like how long Ramadan is likely to be. It will be a predicted date because when Ramadan starts is dependent on moon sighting. I know someone answered that in the chat, but just to clarify further. So because it's a lunar year, when the new moon crescent is sighted, that's when the next month starts. So sometimes that wouldn't be known until the night before. And then some students might feel like they're not able to fast for health reasons. So another thing is not to assume that anyone who's Muslim or visibly Muslim or has told you before that they're Muslim is definitely fasting, because they might not be. That might be because of health reasons, or in terms of if they're taking any medication that they have to have throughout the day, they might be excused from fasting. So yeah, just to be aware that rather than making assumptions, can just ask. And it's better to kind of discuss the subject with your students, and that way you can have an open conversation with them and see how you can adjust things accordingly. Another theme was around adjusting and being kind of flexible. And it is important to note that this will vary by cohort, subject, context. We're aware the same thing might not work for everyone, but maybe considering your assessment timings and adjusting those to avoid deadlines during Ramadan or around Eid, and just being aware of in terms of the time of day as well. So alertness levels might be a little bit lower in the afternoon towards the sunset time when they've been fasting for a while. And just reminding them that they can request adjustments or go through the religious observance policies to kind of ask for extensions if needed. Another thing was to offer asynchronous learning, and this will then just allow students to learn and take the teaching that you're giving at a time that suits them. to compensate for the fact that they might have sleep disruption. They don't have to come in early into university the next day. They can do it when they feel they have the most energy in the day. As some students might be preferring to be off campus for this time. And just an important note to note that sometimes there can be visa requirements for international students. So making sure that there's still an avenue for that as well. And yeah, like we said earlier, just raising awareness and celebrating. So you can do that with the resources we've created with Exceed to put up those banners in communal places. If you're short on space, then on the link, there's also just like a A4 that you can print out that says Ramadan Mubarak. You don't have to have the banner. And consider maybe even hosting like what we would call iftar, so like a fast breaking thing. And earlier we mentioned that sometimes there can be a clash with like the Chinese New Year, and you might want to celebrate or have different events going on. It's not to say you can't do that, but you might want to consider doing them after sunset or in the evening so that Muslim students can join as well. And you might find that you need a bit of support. So you've got maybe chaplains at your institutions that you can contact, or people from other teams or your EDI teams that might also be able to help. And again, in terms of raising awareness, you can use the poster or you can use those templates we've shared as well. And then another thing that we found was around being inclusive and making change sustainable. So of course, as individual educators, it might not always be possible to make change from top down, and sometimes you feel like you're working against the grain. Ideally, what we would want is for religious observance to be a normal part and parcel of our institution's offering. And if it isn't already there in your institution, like maybe you might need a bit of support and speaking to someone to try and get that embedded. And again, you might find your chaplains a helpful source for this, in terms of even just asking them about other key religious dates for Islam as well as for other major religions to kind of help you plan your calendar academic year. I'll hand over back to Louise, I think, at this point.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm not going to go into details on this, but we also have a section on supporting students who might be in a work placement. So there's information about that in the guide too. But I want to allow some time for comments and questions too. So just to finish then, I think our key message is just first and foremost, acknowledge Ramadan, enable Muslim students to feel seen, to feel like they don't have to hide it or not be included, and celebrate it. And really, also really important is don't make assumptions. Don't try and second guess what students might want. But really important, by acknowledging Ramadan, you're opening the door to invite those conversations with students to find out what's going to help them best in your context for your discipline. And so what I would like to really encourage you to think about, based on what you've heard today, is think about what are you actually going to do. Ramadan starts in a week or so's time. What is within your power to do to make a difference to your students? And if you would like to make a pledge in the chat, that would be wonderful as a way to demonstrate your commitment to doing something tangible, whether it's downloading the guide or trying to put up a poster or sending an email to students or chatting to one of your academic advisees. What will you do to make sure to try and create an inclusive learning and teaching space to support your Muslim students during Ramadan in the next week or so? Okay, thank you so much for listening. I want to finish there, and we've got 15 minutes for some questions. If anyone would like to ask anything, I can see some pledges coming in the chat. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Someone's already put the statement in their Moodle announcements. Great. Fantastic. There's some brilliant pledges coming in. Okay, Katie.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Brilliant. Hiya. I just had a question about it's a bit niche, but I know Fatima, you're an optometrist, which I also am. I'm from the Hearts team. So nice to see you again. I've got a potential OSCE that's going to potentially fall within Ramadan. Is it a reasonable adjustment or a reasonable idea to offer students, because it will be running throughout the day, is it reasonable to offer them like a morning slot in the OSCE? Because that might be potentially a time of day that's better, or to give them the option of it. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I would say maybe check with them. It, because sometimes too early could mean that they've got disruption, going to struggle to get that kind of thing. So maybe ask them what they prefer. They might prefer to get it over and done with and then go and spend the rest of their fast at home and then kind of get ready for breaking fast in the late afternoon. The other thing just to note here is actually for a while we've been able to get away with the fast not opening during working hours in the last few years, but slowly we're coming to a point where, so next week when Ramadan starts, the first fast is opening, I think 5:20 something. And if you're not sure, just look at the sunset time in your area, and that is the time that the fast breaks, so you can tell. So what I mean to say is the fast is going to break during working hours. And so you might find that the students need to break their fast. So as long as there's not a clash and you're able to get done by then, so they're at least able to open their fast afterwards, would be a good idea. What I've done at and obviously see if you've got the funding for it, I just do it myself, but I provide dates in the reception area, so students can just help themselves to a date if they need to open their fast, or they might be in clinic, allowing them to excuse themselves to go out and break their fast and like have a sip of water if the fast is opening during working hours. So I would maybe check with your students what they would prefer. Like, do they prefer to have it in the morning? And obviously if you've got a large cohort with multiple Muslim students, it might be that some of them prefer different things, so maybe there's a system you can do to and see what they prefer. There might be personal preferences in there, so it's tricky to answer for all of them. Like, I know, for example, myself, I wouldn't want it to be the first thing at 9 o'clock, but I'd also want to get away in time so I can open my fast with family. But that's
of course
me. It depends on your students, I think. Sorry to not fully answer.
No, that's really helpful. So is opening your fast something that is generally done like with family at home, so it's better for them to be
and I mean, there may be situations where as a Muslim you have to open it wherever you are, and it's I've opened it in all sorts of random places and just quickly drink a bit of water and ask, for example, when I was working in practice, ask my patient, could you excuse me, and then just go and drink water, come back in. But yeah, it is ideal if they're spending it with their family, and especially, for example, if your students are like commuter students, so ideally you don't want to do it where then they're having to open their fast on the way home. It's not a problem if they have to, but if you can,
ideally,
if you can, easily adjust for it, I think they'll appreciate that. And especially, I mean, if you're making that effort, just letting them know that the timetable we've tried to consider and tried to make sure you get away on time to do iftar. I think that will go a long way for students to be like, wow, you really thought about me.
Okay, that's really, really helpful. Thank you, Fatima.
If you've got any other questions, drop me a line as well.
Will do, thank you.
Yeah, just a reminder for people, I've just put in the chat, we'll put this presentation on our YouTube channel for TFUN. We'll also circulate it via the TFUN network, and I'll circulate it in the via the different channels where I advertise the talk as well.
The other thing to just quickly say, the Welsh version of the poster was designed on request of someone from Cardiff University. So it's not actually on the National Teaching Repository. I'm trying to see if I can get it on there. So in the meantime, if you are from Wales and you would like a Welsh translation, drop me a line and I can share that with you, what Exceedu created for Cardiff University, so then you can use it as well.
Anyone else like to ask a question? Someone would like the
I'll find
show.
The link for the Do you mean for the resources?
I don't know if they mean the slideshow. The link to the guide and the resources are all in the...
It is QR codes in the
It's
slide.
to the deck, Louise.
The slide deck.
Yeah, so you able to put it
sure.
in this chat as well? It just, I can find it in those other places, but I'm emailing my colleagues during this meeting. It's been so invaluable. So I was thinking I could just, it'd be speedier that way.
Yeah, let me just, I'll put it on our Google Drive, and then I can share the link to the slides in the chat as well. But just give me a moment.
Sure.
Chat amongst yourselves. Okay, actually, I can quite quickly share the link to one. So we gave this presentation at Northampton University a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? So I can just share it there in the Google Drive. So I can share the link to that. I'm not sure that it's public. Right. Let me just change the settings, and then you should be able to access the slides on this link, but I just need to check that it's like public.
It's closed to us at the moment.
Yeah, let me just change the settings to anyone with the link.
So helpful. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Right.
I was busily typing and I missed one of them as well, so I want to just catch up as two. So thank you.
Okay, try if you refresh and try now, that should give you access. Anyone else like to ask anything?
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone with questions, feel free to use the react button at the bottom of the screen just to raise your hand or ask a question in the chat.
Yeah. But thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. Are you okay for us to share those slides, or would you rather not?
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's fine because they'll be on the public recording as well, so that's fine.
Perfect, thank you.
Just to give a quick plug to our YouTube channel as well, which is in the chat, we do encourage new subscribers. So this is an amazing talk today. There are many other talks on different topics, all sorts of areas to do with inclusivity, diversity, aspects of teaching provision, and all sorts of great things. So to encourage you to have a look at those.
Is there a link? Is there a link to the YouTube channel in the chat already, Alex?
I popped in. I can pop it in again.
Yeah.
There is.
Yes, there is. You shared it earlier.
Yeah, it's very useful. Thank you.
There's a question from Holly about using if we use the resources on Instagram, would it be better to reference these? I would reference. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I would reference the guide, which is on the National Teaching Repository, and there's a citation that shows you how to cite the guide on the National Teaching Repository, so you can just cite that. That clarifies. Okay, well, if no one else has any questions, shall we finish it there, Alex and Fatima?
Yes.
Thank you everyone for coming, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was probably one of our most well-attended talks, so that was brilliant. I'm glad so many people have come.
If you think of anything later, we're available by email as well.
Thanks so much. It's been incredibly useful. Thank you, colleagues.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.